Peace and welcome to World War Wrestling. Judging by how this day is going so far, if I don't do this now, I'll probably have the rest of the day to do it, and then it's not going to get done until super late at night because I have the rest of the day to do it. So it's better to just get it done right now. As I mentioned in the last video that you may or may not have watched because viewer retention has gone down ever since I started doing the verses, people were kind of with me when I was just doing episodic Raw and SmackDown but once you start putting them head to head, it just kind of like maybe the SEO just isn't there yet. I don't know. I'll figure it out. We have NWA on the CW, and we have NXT. This episode of NXT was kind of a banger, So I had the choice of either doing one episode of NWA versus NXT or both episodes of NWA from season 17, episode 1, and season 15, episode 1 of NWA, National Wrestling Alliance, versus this latest episode of NXT on the 6th of February, I believe. Hopefully. There were 10 notable segments here on NXT. This first episode of NWA that I have, it was about 4 to 5 segments here. Honestly, just kind of 4. So that wasn't going to work. But the last match was worth 5 to 10 matches on NXT, to be completely honest with you. So when we get to that eventual EC3 versus Matt Cardona match, that's beat anything that NXT had on. That was like premier wrestling right there. In this episode had about 5 segments, 5 to 6, 7 segments. I squashed all the promos together because at NWA, their promos are kind of just like vignettes, and they don't really last all that long. They're like 1 to 2 minutes, and then they're over. When NXT or WWE does a promo, it is like a theatrical event. So I'm going to try to be as fair as this as possible as I can. So for NXT, you have the Bastards opening it up. The Wolf Dogs, they don't have a name yet. I call them the Bastards. I think that's I don't think you can say that on their show. I'm going to save that women's match for maybe that Lola Vice and Roxanne Perez. So Jack Stade and Tim Storm versus Blunt Force Trauma. This is very fitting because the next segment of NXT is actually the Heroes, Nathan Feldman, and Axiom, The Truth, Nathan Frazier. I'm sorry, bro. And Idris Anofe and Malik Blade. I don't think they have an actual tag team name. Maybe that's what's holding them back. Anofe and Blade by now, they have no real synergy together. I don't think they should have a violent breakup, but they're just being more than a rookie does not leave much room for expertise or mastery. You're just more than a rookie. I feel like they should go to finishing school. Just because you've gone through wrestling school doesn't mean what you have to learn is over. You could still ask an older guy to mentor you, find that leadership and find that mentorship outside the ring to learn. Sometimes people are just happy to be on TV. Sometimes you're making more money than you've ever made before. And for you to really embrace everything that you need to be doing, you would have to simultaneously embrace your real goals in all this are to definitively and absolutely become the greatest professional wrestler that you can, that you individually can. When I compare blunt force trauma to a no and blade, I see two guys in very similar situations. That it took Rodney Mack until he was maybe like late 50s, 60 years old, not to win a belt, not that, but to really like reach the most prime, winningest, absolute, like both of these guys, Marche Rocket and Rodney Mack, Damage, Rodney Mack, Carnage, Marche Rocket, both of these guys felt like they were super talented their entire career. Both of these guys felt like they deserved better their entire career, especially Marche Rocket, to the point that Marche ended up bulking up, but he didn't really end up cutting back down. He still has a pretty good athletic moveset, but he definitely is not the young guy, hey, or whatever the hell this thing was. I don't know. SpongeBob, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. You know, versus Inoue and Blade, it took putting on a mask for Rodney Mack and Marche Rocket to get over. And I feel that way as like once they killed their ego and they did what worked, they weren't only just champions, but they probably are the most winningest champions in NWA. I would love to see La Rebellion versus Blunt Force Trauma. But this match from NXT with the Heroes versus Nofe and Blade, I look at Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus Jack Stain and Tim Storm. You got two. This was an old dudes match, for all intensive purposes, but it was a wrestling match. It was physical. It was violent. You know, you got Tim Storm putting in the greatest effort he possibly can, and damn near winning the match until fucking the third leg comes in and with the fucking fist of fate. I don't know what name they've given that like finishing move that fucking Aaron Stevens has. I'm gonna call it the fist of fate though. Oh man, this is pretty wild. This is just pretty wild. And then afterwards, the bastards challenge the champs. Whole thing happens. But comparing Jack Stain and Tim Storm and Blunt Force Trauma versus the Heroes and Inoue and Blade, I got to give it over to NWA because it was an actual match. You know, wild, right? There was a Mims promo on NWA that was absolutely Shakespearean. He seemed like this Macbeth type figure who's just walking into his doom. We're gonna get to Max the Impaler eventually, but I like Matthew Mims. I like him a lot. I think he's a great guy. I don't see anybody really beating Max the Impaler, bro. I guess it's cool because she's like non-binary or whatever, but like the Bastards opener, the distension that is already between Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. It's kind of like it reminds me of like almost like a South Park thing, like a Cartman and Kyle type of relationship, where they happen to be friends because they're neighbors or they live in the same neighborhood, what have you, but they do not get along whatsoever. And it's like Braun Breaker just kind of reminds me of Cartman, and Baron Corbin reminds me so much of Kyle, and it's just Kyle trying to rear Eric Cartman in, and Eric's just so fucking excited and just off the fucking rails with no fucking guidance whatsoever. If Baron Corbin can find a way to get leadership over this group, they would be unstoppable as a tag team. If Braun Breaker keeps going about it the way that he's going about it, they're never really going to get that far out of the gates because he's the rookie. And you can say whatever you want about Baron Corbin's career. You know, it's like scripts and OTM. You can say whatever the fuck you want about Reggie, but at the end of the day, he is a vet. You know, he has been around this block a few times, so that is what it is. Still gotta give it. If the bastards were on the same page, I could give it to him no problem, but I can't. I can't with the distension that they're going through. Cardona shot a promo as well, talking about the match he has later with EC3. Dijak and Ilya talk some schmack to one another, and I give it to Dijak and Ilya because they're not going to get the point later on. I'll give that promo to them because the Cardona promo was just kind of like whatever. It was give or take. Oh, we got a women's match right here, but you have another promo in NXT. Von Wagner and Jimmy Jacobs challenge Oral Mensa and Noam Dar to a fight. I guess you can compare that to Tiffany Neves and Kenzie Page. Von Wagner. He talks like he's simultaneously acting and like he's a complete airhead. Like he's just not really being like he's being wholesome. He's being very family friendly. But maybe because they have like kids and stuff around them too, I would imagine as well. Some people get like that when like they're around kids and they don't necessarily have kids, and they don't have like that middle ground to toe necessarily. So they're just kind of like Jolly G guys, holy schmacks, you know, that kind of thing. Like they want to curse, but they don't, so they just substitute the curses out because they can't like change their behavior at all. Uh, I don't dislike the segments with Von Wagner and Jimmy Jacobs, but I don't really particularly like them ever either. This Tiffany Nieves match, she was actually on like a podcast or something the night before I found this. So it was very interesting that she was actually wrestling against Kenzie Page. You may not know that Kenzie Page is like one of my favorite women's wrestlers right now because she will fight literally anybody. This is a really competitive match, far more competitive than the Von Wagner and Noam Dar match is going to be. And in the sake of gender equality, you know, I got to give it up to Tiffany Nieves and Kenzie Page. They were both very competitive. Very, very, very competitive. I'm going to have to switch it over to... I can do NXT for 1 second, and then I'm going to bounce over. This may not work out. Lexus King versus Riley Osborne. So they've been having like this thing going on for a while. I don't know, like NXT feels like some kind of like God of High School drama. If you ever like heard of or seen the anime God of High School, like it just seems like some kind of high school college soap opera drama where like I call WWE, I call it professional wrestling men's soap operas. This seems like teenage young adult soap operas for men and the women who date them. Because this whole dynamic with they Thea and Riley Osborne and Alexis King is just so. There's two women there, gentlemen. You don't have to fight over Thea Hell. You just JC Jane's a nice lady. That's all I'm gonna say. So on the other side, you have Team Olympics versus the Outrunners. Team Olympians. Team Olympus. Okay, that's Kratos and Odinson. This is okay. All right, cool. That's a fair comparison. I know it's a tag match versus a not tag match, but why is it that on AEW, Hook has a complete squash match against the Outrunners? This, like, I knew I seen the Outrunners before. I knew they were familiar to me. They were in NWA. Odinson and Kratos are the two most intimidating men, probably the most capable men in and outside of the ring, probably like the two most legit tough guys in pro wrestling. The Outrunners have a grueling match with them, hyper competitive match with them, have a few spots where it feels like they're going to win, and they wrestle Hook, who Odinson would eat Hook, Kratos would fucking body Hook, and he squashes the Outrunners. There's something wrong with AEW, you know, because I review Ring of Honor as well, and there's like Ring of Honor is up there. Ring of Honor is a very competitive show compared to all these other shows here. I wouldn't even mind one night putting Ring of Honor against the pay per view, like an average night of Ring of Honor versus like a WWE pay per view, and seeing if the average night of Ring of Honor doesn't kick the shit out of the Elimination Chamber or kick the shit out of WrestleMania. You know, because people are judging by how many people come to the seats. They're not judging by the actual quality of what's inside of the ring or going on. I'm judging by quality, baby. And Team Olympus versus the Outrunners was a quality, absolutely amazing wrestling match. This freaking sitcom drama bullshit with the great Lexus King, long live the king, versus Raleigh motherfucking Osborne. He got smashed by Obafemi, Lexus King's boy. Like, Lexus King deserves a lot better than what he's getting. But he's earning it. He's earning it. You know, just be patient and stay tuned. Because a lot of these guys, like Tim Storm and Jack Stayden, they're wrestling for decades. They're not wrestling for a couple of days. Ziggy Dice cut a phenomenal, amazingless promo. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, you can't create mic skills like that. Unless you're Carmelo Hayes. If you're Carmel Hayes, you might be able to compete with that. I'm just saying. That Carmelo Hayes promo. Even the boos for Carmelo Hayes aren't as loud as the cheers for Chick Williams. So even when he's doing his best to be in his element and be the heel, be the bad guy, he still is not as popular as Trick Williams in terms of like the alternative heat is concerned. Pretty Empowered also cut a promo. And they did like this very straight out of wrestling school. If you ever notice like when there's a pro wrestler talking and there's like one or two pro wrestlers in the background, the other two, someone like they're talking and like, yeah, no, man, we're gonna beat this ass. And everyone's like, and they're like doing shit in the background, and it's like, I'm here too, guys. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like they're taught to do that, or they're trained to do that, or something. Because you can't just be sitting there on national television picking your fucking nose or something. So you got to be doing something, but it seems so fake. So Ziggy Dice cut a pretty good promo, but I've never really seen Ziggy Dice back up what he said in the ring. I'm pretty excited to see whatever happens next with Carmelo Hayes. So Pretty Empowered and Ziggy Dice cutting a promo. You gotta go to whoever taught Carmelo Hayes how to cut a promo. because Carmelo Hayes squashed both of y'all. Gotta give that over there for real. Okay. Lola Vice versus Roxanne Perez. This is what I wanted to get to. This is what I wanted to get to. This is what I wanted to get to. Max the Impaler versus Taylor Rising. This was the opening match for season 15, episode 1. So this was the pilot. This was the first match of the season. This was the first match of the night. This was a big match. This is a very big match. And there was no build up to this. This was just a match. Lola Vice versus Roxanne Perez had a lot more build up, had a lot more fire behind it. I don't think anybody can touch Max the Impaler. I think you would need two full grown men to compete with Max the Impaler. I feel like if her and G Dias mated, their child would bring about the apocalypse. This is how much weight I'm putting on Max the Impaler. So I hope that they don't copulate. I hope that they don't raise any offspring together. Find a nice 5 foot dude, Max the Impaler, and let him knock you up and have some average sized kids. Because if you made it with Judias, it would be the end of us all. Uh, and it wasn't even like a squash versus Taylor Rising. Taylor Rising got some pretty good offense in there. She tried to fight the big woman the way that you're supposed to fight the big woman. She fought the big woman better than most grown men fight big men, you know? And Max sold. She's coherent. And she squashed her. And she didn't squash her in a way that didn't, like, put she put Taylor Rising over. But the way that Taylor put Max over was just, like, if this is your first time ever watching NWA, your first time ever watching the CW, you would be like, wow, let me see what's next. That's exactly how I felt. I felt that match between Max the Impaler and Taylor Rising was so good. I watched this and I watched another episode of NWA immediately after, just to see if Max the Impaler would be on the show again. I had to see what was going on with the rest of this stuff, but specifically, Max the Impaler and Taylor Rising versus Lola Vice and Roxanne Perez. Max the Impaler all the way. It was just an unlucky matchup. I could have did Lola Vice. If I did Lola Vice versus Roxanne Perez with Tiffany Neves and Kinsey Page, you might have got it. But I didn't. I didn't do that. Gnome Noir. Gnome. I said it, nice up there. Fucked it up here. A Gnome Noir. Noam Dar promo versus NQCC, the No Quarters crew. I still have no idea what the fuck that means. Not even close. But I'll compare this, to be fair, with the EC3 promo. And EC3 has evolved to become Derek Bateman from NXT, John Cena in his prime, and this archetypical figure of Sigma masculinity in his current state, which makes you extremely excited for whatever the future holds for this guy. I think a big issue with him opening up his own wrestling company is that he would probably be the champion. I think what he's doing now is starting over from the bottom. Like, he just seems like a real salt of the earth, rootsy type of dude, a la MJF, in that he wants to earn what's on the other side of this mountain. There's a lot of guys that want to just rush to the mountaintop and then they become a Reginald or they become a Scripps. They want to rush to the mountaintop and then they end up like a Cedric Alexander because, you know what, there was no real room on the other side of this mountain. And instead of you just making 205 Live the biggest thing that it could possibly be, you wanted to be on the main roster so badly and it didn't work out for you. Sometimes we rush to places that we don't need to be. So it's nice to see EC3. He had great success in TNA. That was a different age. I don't know how he would fare now with the competition there, but we're gonna get back to EC3 in a moment. But it's a great promo. Noam Dar, No Quarters Crew was not a good promo. So that EC3 promo, we're gonna get back to EC3 in a second. I promise you. This next one almost may not seem fair, but I feel like it is. I feel like it is. The Fixers. This was the main event of season 15, episode 1. The Fixers LLC versus the Southern Six. And my note here is that Silas Mason is big as fuck. Silas Mason is huge. He's a big ass dude. He seems like the type of dude that had a mullet when he was like 13 and a full beard and a PBR, playing an ear guitar, fucking rolling his long mullet. I'm going, Mama, I'm gonna be a rock star one day. You know, and that's just who he is. Kerry Morton looks like a fat version of Cody Rhodes. And the other guy, he looks like he's just there to take the fall whenever the Southern Six has to lose. And he's happy to do it. He feels like he's a part of the group doing his thing, you know? The Fixers did not have the boss, Jay Bradley, but they had Wrecking Ball, the Gursky running things, which was very, very freaking interesting. Because you can see why Wrecking Ball is not the leader of the group. He is not leadership material. He knows that he's not leadership material. It was like it's kind of like when Jay Bradley was like the owner of the company, Wrecking Ball Legursky is like his fucking brother-in-law, and then Jay Bradley's gone for the day because he has to handle business somewhere else, and Legursky is just like, I don't give a fuck what you guys do. I don't give a fuck. Versus Fallon Henley and Ren Sinclair versus Last Legend and Jakar Jackson of Metaphor. Yo, Last Legend and Jakar Jackson are badass. Yo, they beat the shit out of Fallon Henley. They beat the shit. They beat them. Like a fucking like a veteran put them like it don't matter. It only matters what happens between the bell, the beginning of the bell and the after bell. That's whatever it is. That's just the script. Whatever happens in the ring is what happens inside the ring. I don't remember who won this match. From all I can remember, Last Legend and Jakara Jackson beat the because Jakara Jackson was kind of like on the outside doing her thing. You didn't really know what she was gonna do. I think she was one of the Funkadactyls. She was doing her thing, and they were a pretty good tag team back in the day as well. Jakara Jackson beat the way I say that like Kyrie Zane is a crazy woman. Jakara Jackson is a crazy chick. She's like violent and vicious and like that one move that they did where like Lash Legend had her in the wheelbarrow and Jakara Jackson just jumps over. First off, that was super fucking athletic. Even though Lash Legend like bent down a little bit, Lash Legend is tall as hell. She did like a 5 foot vertical right onto someone's back who was suspended at like, yo, I gotta give it to NXT for that. I know you probably thought it was gonna go the other way, but it didn't. The Southern Six is pretty good individually. When you have them all together, it just looks like a sausage fest. Now, this is what I really wanted to review. I'm gonna let you know from the very beginning. EC3 versus Matt Cardona already won. I'll tell you why. Dijak should have waited. He won an opportunity at the belt, and these guys just seem so happy to say that they had an opportunity at the belt. Dijak could have waited. He could have dragged this out. He could have had a feud. Gacy interrupted at the very end. But Dijak could have cut things off with Joe Gacy. He could have ended that properly and then stepped into a feud with Ilya that was properly fueled. This was just a random fucking main event on NXT. and it just seemed really fucked up to do Dijak this way. It seems like they've been repeatedly misusing Dijak, and honestly, if this character, Colonel Dijak, whatever the hell he calls himself, you know, the Enforcer Dijak goes to any other promotion, he's not going to the main roster. We already saw that. If he goes to any other promotion, this character is over. The character that Dijak has created or they have worked with Dijak to create, it's over. If he could fill out some paperwork to trademark this character and put it in his name and his likeness and his image and control, become the executive producer or the executive director of his brand and his image, he can go anywhere he wants and do great things. Him staying in NXT is like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa being on the main roster. All you're going to do is be a developmental talent to help other people get over. That's it. EC3 versus Matt Cardona was... Let me look at my notes real quick. Rhodes versus Nakamura cowbell match. EC3 versus Matt Cardona. What is this here? Collision. Daniel Garcia and FTR versus the Patriarchy. EC3 versus Matt Cardona. Vengeance Day. What was the main event for Vengeance Day? Oh. Ilya Dragunov versus Trick Williams. EC3 versus Matt Cardona in a death match. Let's go. Let's see when it stops. Collision. I don't know what the fuck this is actually. This is Collision. This is not. Lady Frost versus Mariah May. That definitely wasn't it. Chris Bay versus Knight. No. The System versus Motor City Machine Guns. No. A 6-way elimination match. No. EC3 versus Matt Cardona is right there actually. So that one instead. Carmella Hayes versus Austin Theory. I prefer EC3 versus Matt Cardona in a death match. That's just me. Oh, look, here, the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns versus the mid-card. Oh, wait, that wasn't even the main event. The actual Royal Rumble. Punk versus Rollins and Cody Rhodes. I mean, Punk versus Cody Rhodes. Nope. Wasn't interesting. Kind of sucked, actually. The rest of the Rumble was pretty good. Here we go. TNA. The best of three Grizzled Young Vets versus Ace and Bay. EC3 versus Matt Cardona. NXT. Trick Williams versus Ilya Dragunov promo. Nope. Dynamite. Swerve Strickland versus Rob Van Dam. That's pretty far back in time, though. That was a pretty long way back, though, of a lot of different shows that we've gone into to get back to that one there. But they're beating Zayn versus McIntyre, though. That Swerve Strickland versus Rob Van Dam match was like a whole different breed of wrestling. And this is a whole different episode of World War Wrestling. I'm out.